Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Statistically Speaking. I'm your host for this week, Alex Markham. We got Ivan Withers out on a hunting trip right now, and so my favorite stat geeks in the world get me. How we doing, guys?
Doing good.
You guys have kind of been behaving the last few weeks. Kind of.
Thanks, boss.
I'm glad that I have Ivan reining you guys in a little bit.
Yeah.
To be fair, you said Ivan was going to rein us in, and he's been 100% Matt the whole time.
Yeah, that's why I like the guy. That's why I like him.
Ivan's a lot more lovable than me, guys. Come on now. So
we're happy to have you back.
Oh man, I always enjoy you guys. So I guess again, another episode of Statistically Speaking. This one, we're doing the recap to the Wyoming game. I heard some pretty outrageous predictions, so we'll get to that in just a bit here. Not fully off base, but if you just look at the stats that you guys love and the basic ones to it, the box score looks a little crazy, Matt. But we'll let you get to that in just a minute here. But just before we kick into everything, I want to thank everybody again. This has been quite the undertaking with getting the UteNation podcast going. Loving everything that all my guys have been able to contribute. Loving the feedback, loving the responses we're getting from everybody. Just want to continuously encourage everybody to like and subscribe. Also head over to UteNation.com because it's a new platform as opposed to what we've had it on for the last 9 years. Go over there, subscribe as well. We have a promo code running along the bottom of the screen here, Ute50. So, all right, guys. Now that I got the promotional stuff out of the way. Oh, Matt, do you want me to just keep going for a minute, or should we just jump right into?
No, I'm ready. I'm always ready to back up my talk.
You feel good about it?
52-10, and it was 31-6, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't, because Utah scoring 3 points and having over 250 yards of offense in the first half. How often would that even happen? I would need one of Joe's special calculated algorithms to show that of how many teams have had that many yards and only 3 points. Yeah, if they just
would. We're so confident that they were going to score in the 50s, though. So confident, bro. Like, dude, you were.
I was.
They were trying to stop you last week, if I remember correctly. They were trying to tell you were insane on the podcast.
Hey, yeah. I will say, I thought Utah looked absolutely, completely unstoppable. Now, to be fair, I was at a play with my wife until the early third quarter. So I'm not sure what everyone's complaining about, but I thought they looked great from the jump.
I think they still felt bad about the onside kick, and they were just trying to spot him. That's all it was. And then they're like, okay, now we can go play.
We had a little discussion pre-show, and I was getting razzed a little bit by you guys, but statistically, Utah doesn't look bad in the first half.
No.
272 yards is a lot of yards. Do they convert? Do they finish drives? No, they don't finish drives.
It's not about converting and finishing drives. It's football is a game of efficiency, right? You have so many plays to get a first down, and then you get a fresh set. That's how it works. I don't know if you know. There's 4 downs.
Well, that's
you get 4 tries to get up to 10 yards, and so it's useful in that kind of environment to be efficient, to get a high average number of yards per play, right? If you run a lot of plays, like for example, if the other team runs 10 plays in the first quarter and 16 plays in the second quarter because they can't get across the line of scrimmage, and you have the ball for a while, you're going to start to add up a large number of total yards. But the Utes' efficiency numbers they had 5.6 yards per play in the first quarter, which is really bad for an opponent of this caliber, but not a fundamentally embarrassing number. They had 4.5 yards per play in the second quarter. That is just a completely unacceptable offensive performance against any team. But when you just look at the offensive line and you think about what should happen to the defensive line when one of those runs into the other, it just is not enough yards per time they got the ball. And that's why
Joe, if you take out,
part of why their points were low were because they missed field goals and had other sort of miscues. But fundamentally what happened is they couldn't get far enough past the line of scrimmage, and it just was a very, very poor offensive performance in the first half.
If you take out the 4-minute drive at the end of the second quarter where they went 10 plays and got 26 yards, which is terrible. But if you take those 10 plays out at 2.6 yards per play, then what's their average? Back in the 5.5.
This is my favorite non-statistical argument. Is if you take out the bad things that happened, and you only look at the good things that happened, it wasn't so bad. It was only kind of. But
it's a reasonably statistical argument, Joe.
The bad things did happen. That we can't just pretend that last drive didn't occur that they didn't get.
I haven't done such a better job reining you guys in, but I'm loving this chaos. Yeah, everybody knows I'm the king of.
All right, so Joe, what's the first half? All of it included. What's the first half yards per play?
Real quick. I gotta say, Dustin, you did a great job jumping in and cutting Joe off. Matt, like I could just see it. Like the ones that are actually watching on video, like they've been watching Matt for like over 3 minutes here, and they can just like see his face and his neck, and just
he's waiting. He's got a point.
It out. He's just so Matt, what are you wanting to say, man?
I just want to say, let's forget about the first half. It was one of those halves that is just not going to happen again to Utah this season. At least it better not, because if it does against a Pac-12 against a Big 12 opponent, they're going to lose. You can't have a half like that against a quality Big 12 opponent. But I think that a lot of the things that they had happen, they learned from. And you could see that because in the second half, they put up the same number of yards, but then they scored the points. You didn't have a fumble at the 2-yard line when you're about to go in and score. You're not going to have all these field goals that he's still a freshman. He's going to be good later, but he's clearly not ready yet for these long 45-plus yard field goals. So I think they may have learned from that, and hopefully we'll go for it on fourth down in some of those situations. I think this is just.
I want to say it's his third leaving you. We're not we're not stopping that faith, but you need to psychologically understand that when you get out there and kick, it's not just about blasting that big leg. It's about just getting there, channeling it, reining it in to an extent, right, and finding that right balance. And it's everybody that's heard me long enough knows I'm good friends with old Ute kicker Golden Whitman. He was a very similar kicker with the big booming leg. That's something that he's talked to me about endlessly over the years with Utah's different kickers. And I know that was kind of one of his concerns going into this as well, is that he's going to be a great kicker. It's just about he's so young and all he knows is that success and being known for that big leg, that again there's that right balance that you just need to figure out, and they're not going to lose faith in him. They love that kid. So
I don't even know if it's necessarily losing faith, though. I think it's more of just as Joe was talking about, an efficiency situation here, because if you're going for 3 from 45, what was the longest? 48?
45, 45, and 46 are the 3 missed ones. Yeah.
I think, in the past, the Utes would have gone for it on 1 or 2 of those if they didn't trust the distance for their kicker. And so even if you trust the distance, I think it's still worth it sometimes to go for it. And again, that's another thing I'd have to look at to see like the percentage of times, that you're going to make it. But the Utes have been so good on fourth down this season. I think I would go for it more often in those situations, to go for the 7 instead of the 3.
I will say, based on the situations they were in, I'd have been surprised if Kyle had gone for any of those, even with a I mean, if he'd had a bad kicker who had no chance, then he'd have gone for it. But it's 4th and 4, 4th and 7, and 4th and 10. Those are situations where Kyle's going to kick if he's got any belief that his kicker can kick. Now, if that first one had been 4th and 3, I think Kyle probably goes for it, even with the kicker. Or if the last one had been 4th and 3, I think Kyle probably goes for it.
That would make more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Joe, what do your numbers say about the second half? Let's put the first half behind us.
And I'm so happy to do that, and I don't need to be too much too hard on you, because I agree. Like the Utes got off the bus after the half, right? There was a conversation that featured probably some colorful and adult language in the locker room during halftime, and the Utes got off the bus, and we saw the football team that we expected to see. And that third quarter was just dominant. I mean, the Utes had a strong, efficient offensive performance, 29 plays, 161 yards. So that's not dominant from an explosive standpoint, but you hear 29 plays, like just totally controlled the ball, really, really steady approach to that. And then the Cowboys, 6 plays for 20 yards. They didn't touch the ball, right? They had the ball for 3 minutes of clock, 6 plays, and that's just an absolute heartbreaker for them. And I'm sure they came out of that locker room saying to themselves, "It is 3-0. We can win this football game." And then just got hit in mouth. Like that was a physically dominant quarter that left no doubt as to who the better football team was, and I don't think there was any coming back from that in the fourth quarter. This is what when we talk about the next game in our next section. I've got my charts and my graphs, and that's why they go out all the way there. This was just a long tail game. This was a performance where the Utes played pretty poorly. It's probably the worst game they're going to play all season, especially from an offensive standpoint. And that's okay. You're going to have some outliers on both ends of the bell curve. And if you're going to have them, you want to have them against the team that you can just outmuscle at the line of scrimmage like they did in the second half.
So,
Joe, this is far and away PFF's least favorite game on offense and overall. Defense, PFF liked the UCLA game a tiny bit less than this on defense. But honestly, that makes perfect sense, right? Wyoming's held to 230 total yards of offense, less than 100 yards in the first half, 89 total yards in the first half, or 88 total yards in the first half. And so the defense looked pretty good. The only offensive player PFF rated over 80 was Hunter, who had a good game on the offense, and even had an okay first half. And then the only player rated in the 70s by PFF was Semi Tawalanga. Like, PFF did not like the offense this week, understandably. That first half was not efficient. Yeah, the first half was not efficient. Yeah, if they played like the second half all game, everyone would have been rated in the 80s and the 90s. But you got to include both halves.
Well, and how many games this season are they going to have 100 yards and penalties? I don't think you're going to see that ever again this season either.
Almost 2 so far. It was close to that many last week.
I think that this is a really good case study too, and we've been talking about the quarterback performance and how efficient it has been in terms of really high completion percentages and really good yards per play averages. This is a great case study for that. So here we have, this was the best performance by total yardage for Devin of the season, right? 230 yards compared to 206 and 192. But not even close from an efficiency standpoint. He got those yards on 41 attempts, a much less efficient performance, and you really see that in the scoreboard. Instead of being up over 8 yards per attempt, he's down below 6 yards per attempt, and that's why the team doesn't score, right? Because you're not moving that ball, and it's a station to station kind of football team, and that those 4, 5, 6 yard passes make a huge difference. But you've got to complete them on a really high basis, or it just doesn't work. He's got to be completing, north of 60%, 70% of his passing for the offense to click.
So, Joe, here's a question for you, man. put you on the spot a little bit on this.
Oh, good. I love that. It's my favorite.
With when it came to the post game show with me and Zach Moss this week, one of the things that Zach pointed out is that the yards were relatively the same between the two halves. So when you're saying that they were so bad in the first half, I mean, outside of those penalties and the fumble, I mean, what do you truly feel are the differences if they were basically the same yardage wise in those two halves?
There's only 37 plays in the second half.
And that's it. It is not a game of totals. It is a game of efficiency because of the structure, because you have to get yards every single play. If you get, a team that gets 100 yards on one play and 0 yards on 9 plays scores less points than a team that gets 10 yards every play, right? A team that gets 10 yards every play gets a first down, scores a touchdown every single time. A team that gets 100 yards 1 out of every 10 times, they are going to fail to score on 3 out of 4 of their drives. They're not gonna get a touchdown. You would rather be efficient than explosive as a general rule. Now, explosiveness can make up for a lot of inefficiencies. It can cover a lot of deficiencies in an offense. But because of the way that football is structured, it is just not about your totals. It is about how efficient you are on a yards per play basis, not moving backwards and just moving forwards the same amount every single time. That's why 3 yards in a cloud of dust has been so popular for so long, because that's how you win football games is a few yards at a time, not all at once.
That's why I have you guys on here talking stats, and I'm on here wanting to talk football and loving football. So I just want to see him score the damn ball, right? Or make the damn stop.
All right. So before we move on and close out the segment, who has been statistically the standout player for Utah in this preseason, right? That we've finished all the non-conference games. Who's the standout player statistically?
Danny was high a week ago.
Alex, am I allowed to say Bird Ficklin? Like his stats are nice. Is that like
his stats
less than 15 actual plays, but 13.3 yards per pass, and his rushing numbers are fantastic too.
10 yards a carry,
over 10 yards per carry. So just shout out for Bird Ficklin, who's performed very, very well.
Shout out to Bird, but it was also against a team that might lose to.
Totally. I'm not going to say he's my superstar.
At the end of the fourth quarter.
Good night.
For me, it's John Henry Daly. He's been incredible, absolutely incredible. In a position of need, he's really just been a monster at defensive end, and pressures, sacks, all of the statistical stuff that Utah wants out of a defensive end. So.
He leads all of FBS in sacks with 5 sacks. No other player has that many sacks.
To be on pace for north of 20 sacks is a remarkable achievement. So should be very, very pleased with.
Yeah, and he has 14 QB pressures, which is the same as the next 3 Utah players combined.
That's got to get fixed then by the others.
We'll see it change when Logan is back and fully participating.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I can tell everybody is that in the off season and everything, and in fall camp, everybody was glowing about John Henry Daly. What I was told is far and away he was the best pass rusher on the team, and everybody knew how good Logan Fano is. So it's a pleasant thing to see. It's not a pleasant surprise, and he's only going to keep terrorizing teams, and it's going to be a fun thing to watch because he's been a nightmare for everybody so far.
Yeah. And then another shout out to for Jackson Bene has played really well. And I was going to say for a second in limited action, but yes, he's not a starter most of the time. But he's played 120 snaps. That's a solid contributing starter level like that. And
three
really
pass breakups. That's an exceptional rate. I mean, to see a player anywhere north of like 2%. Of pass breakups per snap is really, really good. And there's a really strong correlation between pass breakups and interceptions. So that's something that you're going to see start coming for. The best way to get an interception, get your fingers on the ball, right? So he keeps doing that. He's gonna do it. I got to shout out Wayshawn Parker, a workhorse running back performance with 27 carries and averaging over 7 yards per carry. That's exceptional. That's somebody that you can rely on to get yards when you really need them, and very, very impressive numbers for him.
That's total, right? He didn't have that many carries last game.
No,
yeah, that's season.
That's for the season.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And
a lot of people on social media are saying he should be.
Most of this is on one play, but those 3 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown is also really nice to have that versatility out of the backfield, and something that Utah really relies on, in terms of constraint plays to stretch the field side to side with those running back plays.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I want to statistically defend Nakari Rogers, because he's getting a little bit of flack from the fan base for only being at like 4 yards a carry, and it's because he's the short yardage back, and he's getting the tough yardage.
You can see it in the
2
numbers.
yards every time.
Yeah, he's got 4 TDs. Yeah. They're having him carry the ball when there's just a couple of yards they need, and they need somebody to really put their head down, and they're both doing their job really, really well.
Here's the one thing I'll say about him comparison wise, and then let's get you guys' final words in on Wyoming, and then it's time to move on to Texas Tech. But Nakari Rogers, I love watching the guy play. You know who he reminds me of is Armand Shine. He's not flashy. He gets the yards, he gets it done, and he gets the short yardage. He's reliable. And so he's the perfect complement for this offense. And I see exactly why they were starting him, and putting him in on those short yards. Wayshawn's a stud. Wayshawn is probably going to be the guy that gets the most yards by the end of the year. But yeah, Parker is just that workhorse that's reliable, and he's going to get those short yards.
Yeah. Wayshawn is what Utah's had for the last couple of years, and Nakari is what Utah had back in the day. He's an Asiata, a Ganther. He's that kind of back. So,
all right, guys. Any closing thoughts? I want to get on to a very meaningful game. I'm tired of the non-conference schedule.
Yes.
And
the first game worth talking about.
Yes.
This is finally some football.
I'm afraid of Joe's
to have such a consequential matchup for we'll talk about it, but it's a good one. I'm excited.
Goodbye, Wyoming.
Extremely pleased with the Utes preseason performance. They positioned themselves a solid 20 places higher nationally than I was anticipating they would be. They really came out of the dock swinging, so that's great.
Awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate you as always. Thank you for dealing with me. I know you guys love Ivan. I know you guys miss Ivan. So try to rein you guys in. We got to try a little harder on the next round. So
it's going to get interesting in the next one.
Well, again, want to thank everybody for joining. Want to keep encouraging everybody to hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us also over on Spotify and Apple. Just keep going along for the ride. Got a lot of fun things with Matt, Joe, and Dustin. Getting some good stuff going with Matt Stanley and the opposing beat writers. And then, everybody's falling in love with the podcast with the former players. So a lot of good things going on with the UteNation podcast, and it's just going to keep building. So until next time, guys, appreciate everybody.